It arrived on a gloomy Wednesday afternoon, wrapped in layers of dusty, old blankets. The mirror was a relic from a time long past, a family heirloom passed down through generations. My great-aunt Eleanor, a recluse who lived alone in a rambling ancient mansion. As I unwrapped the mirror, I couldn't help but admire its exquisite craftsmanship. The frame was an ornate masterpiece, carved with intricate patterns of vines and flowers. The glass itself was polished to a flawless shine, reflecting the room with a clarity that was almost unsettling. But as I gazed into the mirror, I felt a strange unease wash over me. My own reflection stared back, but there was something off about it. My eyes seemed darker, more haunted, and my expression appeared strained, as though I were hiding a terrible secret. I quickly dismissed the feeling as a product of my overactive imagination. After all, it was just a mirror, and mirrors couldn't possess malevolent intent. Or so I thought. At night, as I prepared for bed, I happened to glance into the antique mirror one last time before turning in, and I about jumped out of my skin at what I saw.
A man in dark clothes stood next to my bed with a crazed look in his eyes.
My head snapped to the side, but there was nobody there. I blinked and rubbed my eyes. He seemed so clear in the reflection. But when I looked again, he was gone, and my reflection appeared as normal as ever. I shook my head and dismissed it as a trick of the dim lighting. Over the next few nights, the mirror's strange behavior continued. I would catch glimpses of movement in its depths, strange and fleeting, like the silhouettes of ghostly figures. Each time I blinked or turned away, they vanished, leaving me to question my own sanity. Soon, my dreams were invaded by horrific visions. I saw terrible things, horrors beyond description. Scenes of violence, despair, and suffering played out before my eyes. I watched in terror as people I had never seen before met grisly fates. The dreams were so vivid, so real, that I could feel the fear and pain as if it were my own. I tried to tear myself away from the mirror, but it held me captive. I found myself staring into it for hours. When I was away for too long, I would get a searing pain behind my eyes, and it would feel like bugs were crawling around under my skin. The only reprieve would be to return to the mirror. I began to see my own reflection change. My face grew haggard, my eyes hollow and empty. The mirror showed me a version of myself that I didn't recognize, a version consumed by darkness and despair. I tried to confide in friends and family, but they couldn't see the horrors that haunted the mirror. They dismissed my ramblings as the delusions of a troubled mind, and I was left to face the mirror's torment alone. As the weeks drew on, I became a mere shell of my former self. I no longer slept, for fear of the nightmares the mirror would show me. I stopped eating, my body wasting away as I stared into the glass, unable to look away. One fateful night, as I stood before the mirror, I saw something that chilled me to my core. My reflection reached out, its hand moving through the surface of the glass. It beckoned to me, inviting me to join it on the other side. I could resist no longer. With trembling hands, I reached out to touch the mirror, and the world around me dissolved into darkness. The darkness swallowed me whole, and I found myself standing in a nightmarish realm, a place where the boundaries of reality and illusion were indistinguishable. The mirror had transported me to a world of torment and despair, a world where my worst fears had taken shape. I wandered through this surreal landscape, my footsteps echoing in the void. The visions I had seen in the mirror now surrounded me, taunting me with their grotesque horrors. I tried to escape, to find a way back to the real world, but the mirror was nowhere to be seen. Time lost all meaning in that dreadful place, and I became a prisoner of my own mind. The visions grew more intense, more vivid, until I could no longer tell where they ended and I began. I was drowning in a sea of madness, and there was no way out. One by one, the figures from the mirror's visions began to approach me, their twisted forms contorted with malice. They whispered vile secrets in my ear, promises of eternal suffering and torment. I screamed, but my cries went unheard, lost in the cacophony of despair that surrounded me. There was no way out, no escape. I am damned to spend eternity here in this twisted hell. If you enjoy our stories, please like, share, and subscribe so that we can continue to bring you new horror stories every week. Thank you for listening, and now for the next tale.
I've worked as an orderly at St. Marie's Mental Hospital for the past 5 years. It's a gloomy place, filled with the anguished cries and haunting whispers of those who have lost their minds. But there's something different about the new patient, an unidentified man who arrived a week ago. John Doe's admission was shrouded in secrecy. No family or friends came with him, and there were no medical records to speak of. He was just a man, tall and thin, with graying hair and vacant eyes. His skin was pale, almost translucent, and his lips barely moved as he whispered incoherent words to himself. I was assigned to his care, and from the moment I stepped into his room, I felt a sense of unease. The air seemed to grow colder, and a feeling of dread settled over me like a heavy shroud. But it wasn't just his presence that disturbed me, it was the things he said. In the dead of night, I would hear him muttering bizarre tales. He spoke of ancient civilizations, of gods and monsters that had long been forgotten. His voice held a hypnotic quality, and I couldn't help but listen, drawn into the depths of his madness. One night, as I sat by his bedside, John Doe turned to me with those empty eyes and said, "Do you know the truth, young lady? The secrets that lie beyond the stars? The knowledge that has been hidden from humanity for millennia?" I shook my head, unable to comprehend what he was saying. "What do you mean? What secrets?" A sly grin came to his face, and he whispered, "The secrets of the universe. The knowledge of the ancients, the power to reshape reality itself. I hold it all within me." I laughed nervously, convinced that his ramblings were the product of a deranged mind. But as the days passed, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to John Doe than met the eye. One evening, as I was going through his belongings, I found a tattered notebook hidden beneath his mattress. Its pages were filled with strange symbols, diagrams, and intricate patterns. I showed the notebook to Dr. Hayes, the head psychiatrist, hoping he could shed some light on John Doe's condition. Upon looking at the notebook, Dr. Hayes suggested that the drawings looked like they might be some sort of star chart. As the weeks went by, John Doe's condition deteriorated. He grew weaker, his body wasting away, and his mutterings became more frenzied. He spoke of a coming darkness, of an ancient evil that would soon be unleashed upon the world. Although I knew not to hold too much credence in the ramblings of a madman, his words still gave me a chill. There was something about John Doe, something ancient and otherworldly, that defied explanation, and as I delved deeper into his notebook, I began to uncover a horrifying truth. I took the notebook to a local astrologer to see if he could shed any light on the diagrams. Upon studying the pages, he determined that they were indeed charts of the stars. But what was odd is that they weren't constellations you could see from Earth. Many of these charts that he'd hand-drawn were of galaxies, millions of light years away. When I returned to the institution, John Doe's condition had reached its breaking point. He began to convulse violently, his body contorting in ways that defied the laws of anatomy. I watched in horror as his skin split open revealing a pulsating, otherworldly light that seemed to beckon from the depths of the cosmos. The room filled with a deafening roar, and a blinding light enveloped us all. I shielded my eyes, but when the brilliance subsided, John Doe was gone, leaving only a scorched, empty room behind. Dr. Hayes and I were left in stunned silence, the weight of what we had witnessed bearing down on us. The secrets of the universe, the knowledge of the ancients, had been in our grasp, and now they were lost to us forever. But I couldn't help but wonder if John Doe's words were true, if somewhere out there, in the vast expanse of the cosmos, ancient beings held the power to reshape reality, and the secrets of the universe remained hidden, waiting to be discovered by those brave enough to seek them out. In the days that followed John Doe's disappearance, the hospital was abuzz with rumors and speculation. The staff members who had witnessed his strange transformation were sworn to secrecy, but whispers of the incident still circulated through the halls. Dr. Hayes withdrew into his office, spending long hours poring over the notes and drawings in John Doe's mysterious notebook. I could see the toll it was taking on him, the lines of exhaustion etched deep into his face. He had become obsessed with the knowledge contained within those pages, and it was clear that he was on the brink of unraveling a truth that had been hidden from humanity for eons. One night, as I passed his office on my way to check on the patients, I heard Dr. Hayes muttering to himself in a fevered frenzy. He spoke of cosmic entities, of dimensions beyond our comprehension, of the very fabric of reality being manipulated by forces we could scarcely fathom. I knocked gently on the door, concerned for his well-being. When he didn't respond, I pushed the door open and found him hunched over his desk, his eyes wild with a manic intensity. He didn't seem to notice my presence as he continued to mutter and scribble furiously. "Dr. Hayes, are you all right?" I asked, my voice trembling. He looked up at me, his gaze vacant and distant. "I found it," he whispered. "The key to the universe. The knowledge that has been hidden from us for millennia." I took a step back, the weight of his words pressing down on me. It was as though I could feel the very fabric of reality shifting around us, and I knew that we had delved too deeply into the unknown. With a sudden burst of clarity, Dr. Hayes turned to me and said, "You must go. Leave this place. Forget everything you've seen. It's too late for me, but you can still escape." I hesitated for a moment, torn between my duty and my fear. But in the end, I knew that I had to heed his warning. I left the hospital that night, never to return, leaving behind the secrets of the universe and the madness that had consumed Dr. Hayes. As I walked away from St. Marie's Mental Hospital, I wondered what other mysteries lay hidden in the cosmos, what ancient beings held the power to reshape reality, and what terrible truths remained waiting to be uncovered by those who dared to seek them out. And so, I left behind the darkness of that place, haunted by the knowledge that some secrets were better left buried, some truths better left undiscovered, and some horrors better left unspoken.
I had always been drawn to the hidden, the forgotten, and the forbidden. Urban exploration was my passion, and I had traveled the world seeking out the most obscure and mysterious locations. But nothing could have prepared me for what I would encounter beneath the streets of Paris. It was a cold and overcast morning when I arrived in the City of Light. Armed with a backpack full of supplies, a flashlight, and a map of the catacombs, I was determined to explore the underground labyrinth that lay beneath the bustling streets. My heart raced with anticipation as I descended into the depths of the earth. The catacombs of Paris were a place of endless fascination, a network of tunnels and chambers that stretched for miles beneath the city. Originally used as limestone quarries in the 18th century, They later became a macabre repository for the bones of millions of Parisians. It was said that the catacombs held the secrets of the city's past, and I was eager to uncover them. As I ventured deeper into the catacombs, the air grew thick with a musty, earthy scent, and the darkness closed in around me. The only sound was the echoing drip of water from the ceiling, and the distant rumble of the city above seemed like a distant memory. I followed the map carefully, marking my progress with chalk as I navigated the labyrinthine passages. The walls were lined with stacked skulls and bones, forming patterns and designs that seemed to watch me as I passed. It was a chilling reminder of the catacombs' grim history. I lost all sense of time as I explored the catacombs' endless tunnels. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional scuttling of rats or the distant echoes of my own footsteps. I began to lose track of where I was, the passages twisting and turning in a bewildering maze. I tried to retrace my steps, but the chalk marks had faded or been smudged away by the dampness of the walls. Panic began to claw at the edges of my mind as I realized that I was hopelessly lost. My flashlight flickered and dimmed, casting long shadows that danced on the walls. I called out, hoping that anyone would hear my cries for help, but my voice was swallowed by the darkness. It was as though the catacombs themselves had swallowed me whole, and I was nothing more than a lost soul in a sea of bones. Desperation gnawed at my sanity as I stumbled through the tunnels, my mind playing tricks on me in the suffocating darkness. I began to see flickering lights in the distance, ghostly apparitions that beckoned me forward. I followed them, driven by a compulsion I couldn't explain. The lights led me deeper into the catacombs, their ethereal glow growing brighter with each step. But as I drew closer, I realized that they were not lights at all, but the flickering flames of candles set in a circle on the ground. And in the center of the circle was a makeshift altar, adorned with bones and skulls arranged in a circular pattern. A sense of dread washed over me as I realized that I had stumbled upon something far more sinister than I could have ever imagined. The catacombs were not as abandoned as I had believed, and I was not alone in this subterranean world. I turned to flee, but in the entryway were figures wearing hooded robes blocking my exit. They chanted, in a language I couldn't understand, as they advanced steadily toward me. Something about their words seemed to put me in a trance. The room seemed to spin around me as I fell to the floor discombobulated. As the ritual reached its climax, I felt a searing pain in my chest, as though something was tearing at my soul. I screamed in agony as the world around me twisted and contorted, and I was engulfed in a blinding light. When I awoke, I was lying on the cold, damp floor of the catacombs, my body battered and bruised. The makeshift altar and the hooded figures were gone, leaving no trace of their presence. I stumbled to my feet and began to retrace my steps, desperate to find my way out of the catacombs. I wandered through the darkness, my supplies dwindling and my hope fading. Occasionally, I would encounter other lost souls, fellow explorers who had ventured too deep and paid the price. Their faces were hollow, their eyes haunted by the horrors they had witnessed. Then, in an instant, they would be gone. I felt like I was losing my mind, but I pressed on, determined to escape the catacombs and the darkness that had claimed me. The tunnels seemed to stretch on endlessly, and I began to doubt if I would ever see the light of day again. And then, just when I had all but given up hope, I stumbled upon an exit, a narrow staircase that led up to the surface. I emerged from the catacombs, blinking in the harsh daylight, my body weak and my mind haunted by the horrors I'd witnessed. As I made my way back to the world above, I couldn't help but wonder what had happened in the depths of the catacombs, what dark forces had been at play. and what secrets lay hidden in the bones and darkness below. The catacombs of Paris had taken me to the brink of madness and back, and I knew that I would carry the scars of that harrowing journey with me for the rest of my days.